I sat in my room, nonchalantly flicking through my textbooks and scribbling notes. I hated Sunday evenings. Just one more sleep until school and all the bullshit that came with it. I sighed, trying not to think about it. Suddenly, my phone dinged and a text from Marlon flashed up on screen.
Yo, did you hear what happened to Evan?
I raised an eyebrow. Evan was our classmate, but we weren't exactly friends. He thought of himself as the class clown, and I don't think I'd ever had a one-on-one conversation with him. I texted back.
No, should I? What happened?
2 minutes passed before my phone buzzed once more.
I don't know, but there's police and ambulances outside his house. His mom's outside sobbing.
I cocked my head in confusion.
I don't know, there might be something about it on social metal.
Marlon didn't reply for a while, so I continued with my studying. 20 minutes later, Marlon replied with a link to a video Evan had uploaded to Social Metal last night, with the message.
Dude, what the fuck?
I plucked my phone from my bed and clicked the link. It was a video of Evan and some of his friends. Evan began to narrate the video.
What's up, guys and gals? Today we're off to get an inside view of the abandoned Rattlesgate House. Let's get in there, shall we?
I knew Rattlesgate House. It was a pretty large abandoned mansion, not far away from town, which had been vacant for probably 20 years. I'd never done much research into it. I'd just noticed it looming behind its tall metal fence when we drove past it in the car. The video cut to everyone inside the mansion. It looked even creepier than the outside, and was virtually pitch black, except some holes allowing a glimpse of sunlight and the group's phone torches.
Okay, we're in.
Evan whispered.
I think this part is the dining room or the entrance hallway. I can't really tell.
Then everyone erupted into laughter as a member of the group tripped on some debris. The video continued with Evan and his friends going from room to room, exploring the once thriving mansion. They then found one of the bedrooms. Evan looked at the camera, then at his friends.
So shall I do it?
His friends all began mumbling agreements as Evan pulled out a plastic bottle from his bag.
Now, I'm sure everyone's familiar with the legend of Gargle, but for those viewers who have no fucking clue, let me explain.
Evan took a step back as if acting out a performance.
Gargle is an urban legend around this town. It's said that 24 years ago, a man named Lucas Rattle was brutally murdered by his own best friend. The story goes something like this. Lucas was hosting a party while his parents were away from the mansion. He goes upstairs to his bedroom and finds his girlfriend in bed with his best friend. Lucas decides to fight his pal and punches him multiple times. Being drunk as hell, his friend smashes a bottle over Lucas's head. As Lucas goes to lunge, his friend grabs Lucas' own switchblade off his nightstand and slits his throat. His friend quickly realizes what he's just done and runs off, while his girlfriend chases him screaming. Lucas fell to the floor, gargling his own blood. Downstairs, the party carried on as the drunk guests were totally oblivious to the horrors that had just taken place above them. Lucas gargled his own blood for almost 15 minutes before he died.
Evan's friends made some dramatic sound effects.
Now,
Evan continued.
Legend has it that if you go to this mansion in this exact room and gargle, it will summon the curse of Rattlesgate and Gargle himself will come for you.
The friends all made a drumroll sound effect as Evan took a mouthful of water, tilted his head back, and began to gargle for a while. After a couple of minutes, Evan burst out laughing and spat the water everywhere. The group then appeared disappointed that their plan hadn't worked and eventually began to leave the mansion. Evan rounded off the video by saying farewell to the viewers, and the video ended. I texted Marlon.
What the fuck was that about?
Marlon sent back a shrugging emoji. I threw my phone back on my bed and tried to continue studying, but curiosity got the best of me. I opened my laptop and began searching up Rattlesgate House. As I was getting engrossed in an article, my mom called upstairs, summoning me for dinner. I closed my laptop for the night. The blaring sound of my alarm pulled me from my sleep. Monday, great. I flopped out of bed and began the morning routine. Once dressed, I trudged downstairs for breakfast. As I was forcing down my toast, I heard my parents watching the news on TV. I craned my neck to see. It was the local news channel talking about a boy who had been found with his throat cut in his sleep.
Do you think it's...
My mum whispered.
No, it can't be. That was years ago.
My dad replied.
It was just a legend back then. A psycho going around killing people for media attention. It won't start again.
I strained my neck to get a look at the TV. Sure enough, it was Evan's house.
We'd best let Sydney know her classmate is gone. I don't want her finding out while at school.
My mum said in a hushed tone. They entered the kitchen and seemed startled to see me sat there.
Sid,
My mother said.
I'm very sorry to tell you this, but one of your classmates has passed away.
I pretended to not know.
Who?
I asked.
Evan Michaels.
My dad replied. I put on my best shocked face.
Oh, what happened?
My parents shot each other a discreet look before my mum replied.
They don't know. An accident, I think.
Just be careful at school today and don't discuss it.
My dad said sternly.
We don't want any schoolyard rumors getting back to his grieving family.
The morning went by rather quiet. Teachers were clearly mourning the loss of a student, and some of his friends didn't attend that day. Morning break came around, and I met Marlon, Heather, and Vince at our usual spot by the science department.
Did you see the news this morning?
Vince asked us.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Heather exclaimed.
Didn't you see his video?
Marlon asked. Vince and Heather shook their heads. Marlon wasted no time in pulling out his phone and showing them the video.
Again, what the fuck?
Heather's mouth fell open.
I thought people knew better than to summon murderous spirits.
Oh, come on.
Vince rolled his eyes.
Evans pissed a lot of people off over the years. He probably just pushed someone too far and got it handed to him.
I don't know.
I said.
He's been an asshole to everyone, but I don't think annoying pranks and teasing is enough to render someone turning his neck inside out.
The bell rang, and we all parted ways. The rest of my day at school was uneventful. There were a few rumors going around about what happened, but nobody really knew. I got home and dumped my bag in the hallway before grabbing a snack from the kitchen and running upstairs to my room. I opened my laptop to check social metal, and the article I'd been reading prior appeared back on screen. I continued to read it while taking a bite of my chocolate bar. Lucas Rattle was 22 when he was killed by his best friend Terry Lassen in his family home at Rattlesgate House. All 15 attendees of the party were found killed in the following year in similar fashion. The whereabouts of Terry Lassen and Lucas' former girlfriend Erin Hart are not known. The article went on to describe the urban legend of Gargle, which apparently had been a huge deal in our town back 20 years ago. I closed the article and opened social nettle. My curiosity got the better of me, and I went to Evan's page. It was full of mourning friends and family, as well as people paying respects. A recent post caught my eye. It was from Frankie Butcham. Frankie was, for lack of better terms, the school bully. He'd relentlessly torment his classmates, including me and my group, with his gang of asshole friends. Rest in pieces. Gargle gotcha. Naturally, this post was filled with comments of people calling Frankie a terrible person, amongst other things. I clicked onto Frankie's social nettle page. I didn't have him connected as a friend, but Frankie didn't exactly have his page set to private, so I could see all his uploads. The most recent upload was a video from 20 minutes ago. It was Frankie and some of his asshole friends walking along and talking. Frankie mentions where they're going, and my eyes widened. They were going to Rattlesgate House. Frankie explained how he'd brought some beer to summon Gargle with, and they planned to smoke and drink while they were there just to show how Evan was a weirdo or something. The video ended with them climbing through a hole in the gate. I refreshed the page, but there were no more updates. I pulled out my phone to text the group chat of me, Marlon, Heather, and Vince.
Guys, Frankie and his fuckwit mates are going to the mansion.
Good riddance.
Heather responded.
Hope the legend turns out to be true for them.
Marlon replied. Vince sent a picture of a dog laughing. I closed my laptop and decided to have a bath before dinner. Once again, my alarm exploded my eardrums, and I was up and dressed for another day of school. I mooched downstairs to find my parents once again watching the news. The news reporter had a serious look on her face. Another body of a young boy has been discovered today. Frankie Butchum was found in his room this morning, his throat cut similar to that of Evan Michaels. Officials have warned parents to ensure their doors and windows are locked while they are searching for the suspect. I walked into the living room. My parents sat on the couch looking pale.
I assume you heard all of that?
My dad said to me. I nodded.
I want you to come straight home after school from now on. No, better yet, I'll come and collect you.
My mom told me.
Lynn,
My dad looked at her.
Sydney will be fine.
He turned back to me.
But yes, come straight home from school for now.
The week came and went, and finally it was Friday afternoon. The bell rang, signaling the start of the weekend. I met up with the group at the school gates.
So, what shall we do tonight?
Heather asked.
I managed to swipe some money off my parents. Why don't we head to the arcade?
Vince suggested.
By swipe, you mean did the dishes and begged.
Heather laughed at him.
The laundry, actually, thank you.
Vince replied sarcastically.
Let's do it then. We'll meet under the oak tree at 7. Don't be late.
6:30 came around. I was washed and ready to go out. I grabbed my phone and keys and bid farewell to my parents, but my mum stopped me.
Where do you think you're going?
Out with friends, it's Friday.
I replied.
No.
My mum said coldly.
We said no going out for now. You're staying in.
What?
I snapped.
Why am I being punished for something that's not got anything to do with me?
Just do as we say.
My dad said from the kitchen doorway.
You're not being punished, you're being protected. There's a dangerous person killing people going about.
I opened my mouth to argue, but my dad stopped me.
Look, I know it sucks, but it's just for now. Go and play some video games or watch TV. We'll order a takeaway later.
I stomped back up to my room, frustrated. I threw myself on the bed, stewing over the altercation. I then opened my laptop and put on some music. Loud enough to hear from outside my door, but not loud enough to piss anyone off. I then did the cliché, stuffing a few pillows under my duvet and opened my bedroom window. I stepped out onto the roof of the porch, which hung over our front door, then slowly and carefully climbed down the beams. I collected myself, looking around to ensure the coast was clear, before making a run for it. I told my friends what my parents had said. Vince found it ridiculous. Marlon laughed, but Heather seemed to agree. We turned the corner to the arcade, only to be met by a terrible sight. A large sign on the door read, "Closed due to power cut."
For fuck's sake.
Vince cursed.
What do we do now?
We could always go to the dessert bar.
I suggested.
That place is so expensive. How about we go to the park?
Heather replied.
And do what? It's nearly 8. The cafe will be closed and all the rowdy kids will be at the skate park.
Vince moaned.
I've got an idea.
Marlon chimed in.
Let's go to Rattlesgate House.
You are joking.
Heather snapped.
Why not?
Marlon looked at her.
Unless you're scared.
I mean, it's something to do. I'm not scared of silly ghost stories, and it'll prove to all the adults that it's all fake.
Vince suggested.
What about, the murders?
Heather snarled.
It's probably just some angry classmate. I already heard they've caught a suspect anyways.
Marlon told her.
They did.
I asked him.
Yeah.
Marlon looked to me.
One of the strange kids in school went around talking about it suspiciously, so they took him in. I heard some people talking about it in the hallway.
Right, all in favor of going to the haunted house, raise your hand. Those opposed can cluck like a chicken. Well, if they've already caught someone, then I don't see why not.
I said.
Fine, whatever.
Heather rolled her eyes. The walk to Rattlesgate House took almost an hour. Marlon instantly started complaining about his legs being tired and his shoes rubbing, but we toned him out.
Look,
Heather pointed. The large, ominous building could be seen peering between the tree line.
Right then, let's go.
Vince stepped off the path and into the woods, the rest of us following close behind. We climbed through the hole in the fence and squeezed through the gap in the door. It was dark and smelled of damp.
well, we're here. What now?
Heather asked quietly. Marlon suddenly screamed.
Wait.
Heather hissed at him. We began walking from room to room, using our phone torches to guide us. We found the large kitchen, decorated with black and white tiles and overgrown nature. We then walked through the dining room to the main hall. It was huge.
Imagine what this place used to look like.
Heather cooed.
Probably a lot nicer than it does now.
Vince replied, stepping over a fallen chair. We made our way up the creaky staircase, sending Marlon first in case it gave way. The bedrooms and bathrooms were large, probably about 4 times the size of mine. Then we entered our final room.
This is it.
Heather stumbled her words.
This is the room it happened in.
Heather, I dare you to do it.
Marlon piped up, pulling a bottle of soda from his cargo trouser pocket.
No, are you mad?
Heather snapped.
You do it.
Vince.
Marlon extended his arm to him.
Get fucked. It's your idea.
Oh, for fuck's sake, give it here.
I snatched the bottle from Marlon. I don't know if it was me showing off or Marlon's constant nagging. But in that moment, I unscrewed the cap and began to gargle. I swallowed the mouthful of flat soda and gave the bottle back to Marlon.
Sid, that was dumb as shit.
Heather shook her head.
On that note, let's get out of here.
Vince chirped.
My phone's on 15% and fuck being here in the dark.
We squeezed back through the main door and began to walk out the whole eye of the fence, laughing to ourselves.
Sydney,
A loud, familiar voice boomed from the right of us. My heart dropped.
Dad,
My dad told all of us to get in his car and was silent while taking everyone else home. We dropped off Vince last. He quietly said goodbye and thanked my dad for the ride. We were now alone in the car.
Sydney, I can't even begin to tell you how disappointed we are.
My dad shook his head.
We gave you one order and you disobeyed.
My dad's anger then turned to fear.
Did any of you do it?
He asked.
what?
Gargle? Did anyone gargle? And tell me the truth.
My dad said firmly. I sighed.
Yes.
Who? I need to warn their parents.
My dad barked. I was silent.
Sydney, you didn't. Please tell me you didn't.
I remained silent. He pulled out his phone and sent a few texts, one hand still on the steering wheel. My dad didn't say another word until we got home. We walked in the front door, and my dad immediately took my mum into the living room. They spoke in desperate hushed whispers before I heard my mum sobbing. I walked in.
Sydney, sit.
My dad instructed. He looked pale and terrified. I'd never seen him like that before.
Sid, tell us what you know about Rattlesgate House.
I told him. I said about the party and the murder and the curse. My dad nodded. He then sighed deeply, as if defeated.
Sydney, it's time you knew.
My mum's head shot up.
Darren,
No, Lynn, it's important now.
My dad sat down.
24 years ago, your mother and I were at that party.
My dad told me. My eyes widened, and I opened my mouth. But my dad continued.
Lucas was overall a snob, but he hated most of the kids at his posh school, so he befriended a lot of people from my school. He was very fond of me, but truth be told, I enjoyed his money. Everyone did. We didn't think he was violent.
My mouth fell open. My father continued.
We were young and foolish, thought we were indestructible, had no gauge on how valuable life is. A group of drunk young people in a conflict is never good.
it was an accident.
My mother continued.
Your father didn't mean to. We should have done things differently, but we were scared.
I began tearing up. My hands were sweating.
We ran away. We both fled very far away for a long time until people forgot, or so we thought. We changed our names, even our appearances. We lived in another country with my estranged uncle for many years. Our parents have no idea. We had to tell you you had no living grandparents. I'm sorry we lied. We never wanted you involved in any of this.
My dad was crying at this point.
We came back years ago, hoping to fix the wrongs that we'd caused, but everyone we knew had either been killed or moved away. The town was full of fresh faces.
My mother didn't even look at us.
Rattlesgate House isn't just a mansion. It is a grave.
My father continued.
Lucas is buried somewhere in the basement. I don't know how the family got away with that one. Money talks. The Rattles still pay for the land of which the house is on so it can never be demolished. But they never visit. I suppose it's too painful.
My dad wiped his face with his sleeve.
It's not your fault, Sydney. It's nobody's fault but ours. We were caught in a love affair that ended horribly. and now we have to make it right.
What do you mean?
I choked out through tears. My dad sighed. You're going to stay with your great uncle and his family for a while. I called him the second I saw the first news report, and your cousins flew over the next day. They're on their way to get you now, I screamed.
You can't do this. Why are you doing this? You're lying.
The front door opened, and in walked a large man and a strong-built woman.
It's time.
My dad said through tears.
Your mother packed you a bag on the way home. If anything's missing, your relatives will buy it. I'm so sorry, sweetheart.
My parents stood up and walked to the door.
We'll make this right, Sydney. I promise. You'll be safe once you're away from this town. Goodbye, baby. I love you so much. Make us so proud.
My mom could barely talk through tears. I dove up to chase them, but the man and woman grabbed me. I screamed, but my parents closed the door. I heard their car leave the driveway, and they were gone. I began hyperventilating, and the woman handed me a bottle of water. I drank it, almost choking. I fell to my knees in a ball and screamed into the carpet.
Come on now.
The man said gently.
It will be okay. You're safe now.
My vision went black. I woke up in the back of a car, feeling groggy.
How are you feeling, sweetheart?
The woman asked. I didn't answer.
Sorry we had to sedate you.
The man said.
It seemed best for you in the moment.
I barely said a word. I went through the airport in a trance and slept the entire flight. I felt as if I hadn't slept for days. We eventually arrived at my great-uncle's house. I went straight to bed. The next day, the woman knocked on my door and came in with a hearty breakfast. She spoke with me for a while. I finally felt more awake, but nothing felt real, as if I were in a dream. I came downstairs. My great-uncle sat in the kitchen, smiling sympathetically. He was a short, plump man with graying hair and a silver chain around his neck.
Darling, I'm so sorry about all this. I'm your great-uncle, Roddy. These are your cousins, Eric and Rhonda. We're going to make sure you have everything you need, just like I did for your parents.
I felt my pockets.
Where's my phone?
My uncle looked empathetic.
We left your phone and laptop at your place. You have to trust me when we say it's for the best.
I began to shake with fear.
But my parents, my Marlon, Vince, Heather, I can't.
I know it's isolating right now. Your friends will be okay. Now, come. The pool might cheer you up.
I struggled through the next few months, and eventually a year had passed. I never heard from Vince, Heather, or Marlon. I just hope they're okay and know I still love them all. My parents are gone. I know that much. Although nobody will tell me, I hear them talking about it at night through the paper-thin walls. My great-uncle feels guilty and is doing everything he can to fill the void in my heart. But I just feel numb to everything. I wish I just stayed in that night. I blame myself for being a show-off, but learning that my parents were living one big fake life has still got my head spinning. I still have so many questions, so many answers I'll never know. But for now, all I know is this: never gargle at Rattlesgate House.